Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Money Matters. As you know by now, Money Matters is, of course, an interactive show, and we are here to make sure that you know and you understand what it means to own a business and to understand what it means when you have money. Well, today we are talking about something very interesting, the importance of making sure that your business has got branding. What is business branding? And joining me in studio today to unpack on this very exciting and interesting conversation is Patrick Mahlangu, who will tell us a bit about himself. Welcome, sir, and how are you?
Everyone, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Tell us, who are you, where are you from, what do you do?
I am Pat Mahlangu, and I'm a marketing entrepreneur, founder of 3 entities, Lerato Agency, Pattern Brands, as well as the Top 16 Youth-Owned Brands Awards.
Top 16. I think I've heard about Top 16 on the radio some time ago, and I think it was you talking. Was you the brand ambassador? So clearly you are carrying your brand there.
Yeah.
So maybe let's talk about the importance of branding. Why is it important that businesses have got branding?
I mean, branding. If we were to look at the history, it dates centuries ago, and really it's about differentiating. People started off by branding their cows to say, this cow belongs to...
Oh, they're cows.
Cows, yes. That's where it all started, because imagine you seeing thousands of cows. How could you tell that that cow belongs to the Mahlangus, for example,
okay,
right?
That was a brand.
So it needed a mark.
Yeah.
So they marked it to say, okay, this one, if you see MA, for example, that means this cow belongs to the Mahlangus. Then fast forward to business. I mean, in the beginning... we were just trading commodities. A rice is a rice is a rice, right, for example. But now there's many other companies that are producing the same rice. So how do you differentiate that? Yeah. So branding becomes very important in a time when where there's a lot of similarities in products and features. So what makes your brand stand out? What makes consumers choose your product or your brand on the shelves versus the other competitors?
And why is it important that actually I make sure that my brand is recognizable? And how do I make sure that it actually has that impact?
Yeah. I mean, there's a saying in marketing that products are made in the factory and brands are created in the minds.
Okay.
So branding sits in the minds of the consumer. Yeah. So it's a combination of things. It's the feeling that they get when they see your product or brand. Yeah. It's the perception that they hold when they see a particular product or service, for that matter. So branding is all about that, and you want to hold a special place. You want your brand to hold a special place in your consumers' minds. Yeah. When they see you, you want to evoke a certain feeling, in your consumer. For example, I mean, even with cars or clothes, there's a reason why people wear or buy expensive French designer labels, simply because of the feeling or the perception that it creates for them when they're wearing those particular brands.
Yeah. And what can happen for a brand that, has been in existence for quite some time, but all of a sudden is starting to deteriorate? What are some of the things that can actually put my brand on the line?
I mean, there's a lot of things, and given the fact that now we're living in a time where the consumer's voice is more powerful than ever before. Yeah. The communications between brands and consumers is no longer one way. So if you look in the past, it used to be a brand just going on radio and saying, hey, buy us, we are great. Go on TV, hey, buy us, we are great. So now there's social media, whereby the feedback from the consumer is very much instant. Yeah. So if a brand posts something today or launches a certain campaign and consumers don't like it, they'll tell the brand right there and then that, look, we don't believe in what you're saying. We don't like what you're saying right now. So so the conversation is very much two-pronged or two-way, and a brand can simply, as we all know, that it takes decades and years to build a reputation. Yeah, and it will take 5 seconds
to actually destroy it.
Destroy it, right?
Destroy it, right?
So it's because of some of the things that brands can do. I mean, there's a classic example of a very popular cola brand, I think in the 80s, where they changed the formula a bit. and consumers are like, no, we want the original. We don't want this. And it hit the bottom line, very hard. So those are some of the things that when a brand needs to obviously consistently
be cognizant of, right?
Yes, cognizant of, but also at the same time, I'm not saying brands shouldn't innovate or continue to reiterate and make their offering better, but there's certain ways that they need to introduce the changes. But one thing that a brand can ever do for itself to kill
its
reputation, it probably be changing fundamentally what it stands for, that which had drawn a lot of customers to it, and at the same time it's also just coming up with distasteful campaigns and all of that. But also what I've realized that brands also have a way of bouncing back even after a tough fall.
And what does it take for a brand to bounce back after? I mean, I suppose if, for example, I'm a food outlet, right, and I've got this very established brand, and I suppose branding carries a price tag to it, right? If I'm a well-known brand, I can literally control the price. I'm not a price taker, but I'm I can set the price for the brand in order to make it sell. But what are some of those things that can I be exorbitant? Can I be seen as being extortionary as a brand, right?
Yeah.
Because now all of a sudden, and because I associate price with quality and so on and so forth, and the brand itself needs to speak, to that. If you're going to charge me a certain price, then I expect a certain quality regardless of, the brand. But how can brands actually use their brand to
leverage
or to extort?
Yeah, look, we've seen with it depends. I'll say first and foremost, it depends in the space that the brand operates in. For example, there's certain things like commodities. For example, if you charge an exorbitant price, people are going to look at you like, what's wrong with you, right? But also at the same time, you look at cars, you look at clothes, or some clothing brands, whereby the brand charges however much they want to charge, and they still get away with it, and they thrive, right? But I think it's simply because of the type of a product that they're offering, number one, and second to that is obviously, can you back it up? Right? Yes, you say your T-shirt costs 7,000 rands, but what really makes it?
What makes the T-shirt?
Absolutely. That's why, for example, there's a classic story of branding. I think the greatest marketing that has ever been done was around diamonds. When a very popular mining house, created the perception that actually diamonds are forever. So that campaign really, just speaks about, if you think about it, in Africa, or in our continent, we're very much blessed with those stones. You go to Botswana, if you like it and you walk around, you can pick up a diamond. That's how easily accessible sort of they are, or it's a commodity, but they've made it become this rare thing, and that's so precious that actually they even had a saying that actually it will take you 3 months of a man's it will take 3 months of a man's salary to be able to buy a diamond ring. So they're putting this value and the story around it, and that's what branding and marketing really does. It differentiates, it sets you apart, it puts you right up there in the consumer's mind. So I think that's what branding allows. Yes, whether it can be extortion is not the right word, I would say, because it's like there's certain level.
You know what I meant by that.
Of criminality attached to being an extortionist.
What I meant there was, sometimes people or brands can thrive from premiumization, right?
Of course.
Where you premiumize your brand and you thrive because, you've made it so, like you said with diamonds, you've made it so exclusive that people want to own it because it seems exclusive. But when you actually look at, 100% cotton is 100% cotton.
Of course.
Do you get what I mean?
Yes.
But it's what the brand you've put on there. So it's not extortion from a criminal perspective, but it's to say, to what extent can brands milk the milk the premiumization element of their brand? The fact that I'm selling a brand, or how can what says, because like I said, we can both come with T-shirts that are 100% cotton.
Yes.
We put them on the table, same quality brand, whatever the grade count is, whatever it is that they differentiate, it's the same. But you put your brand and I put my brand, but your brand sells more.
Yeah.
I was coming from it from that particular angle. To what extent can then businesses thrive from that, what do I call it, how premium your brand is?
Yeah, I mean, there's a classic example of coffee.
Yeah.
There's a branded coffee and an unbranded coffee.
Yeah.
The branded coffee is more expensive than the unbranded one. It's simply because of the story that behind the branded coffee, and also the ingredients. Then, I mean, also, we're not just saying put a logo on something, then off you go, you've done your brand.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes, I mean, there's a very expensive car brand, and their claim to fame is that all our engines are handmade. We don't use robots to make our car. So we take our time and we, pay attention to detail, and then that's what justifies our price. So there's a lot of things at play. Yeah. So I would say there is no one sure way of building a brand. So it's a series of activities that one needs to partake in terms of creating the perception of for their brand. For example, the distribution channel. When the product is being sold in a particular location versus the other, that also plays in creating the perception of the premiumness, like you were talking about earlier on. The ingredients, the very ad, what does it come with? And so, for example, I mean, there's a very popular cell phone brand, that took away the charger, for example, and you still pay a lot more.
I wanted to hold that thought. You're still hurting from that, but we have to take a short break. We'll see you just after this, but don't forget that you are still in conversation with us, and we would like to have this conversation with you. Tell us how some brands have impacted your life, which brands are you loyal to, and the likes. But we'll see you just after the break. Don't forget to tag us, hashtag on on SID, on all our social media platforms. See you just after this. Welcome back to Money Matters. We are still talking branding. Joining me in studio to talk about this conversation is Pat Mahlangu, who has been sharing valuable insight on the importance of making sure that you brand your business and why it's important to create that lasting impression in the minds of your customers, and how do we captivate and capture them. Before the ad break, we were discussing about this very famous cell phone manufacturer that you still have a gripe from. Can you just tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they are leveraging off the strength of their brand, and really they can take away a charger, for example, and we'll still pay the full price and more for that particular cell phone, and still buy the accessories that come with it and spend a lot of money through them. But I think what this brand has also managed to do very well, not only from a marketing perspective, a brand building perspective, but also they ensure that their products are good enough, that they offer the convenience, they offer the premiumness, they come with the image, and therefore they're able to capitalize on that brand.
Yeah. So they've created such a lasting impression, right? Not only are they premium, but their premium is backed up. Like you said, you need to have something that backs up
100%.
Why your brand is premium. Yes. Maybe let's just then talk about some of the various channels that I can use to make sure that I put my brand in the minds of the consumers and that it actually has that lasting impression.
Absolutely. So in marketing, there's this thing called the funnel,
Okay, a funnel.
The marketing funnel. Mm-hmm. So it all starts with awareness. So basically what the funnel talks about is that what makes consumers buy your product. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest thing around marketing and branding is that we understand that a consumer will not buy a brand that they do not know.
Yeah.
For example, right? If you don't know a brand or a particular product, why would you see the need
to actually engage with it, right?
Absolutely. So it starts with the
awareness.
The awareness. So we have to build the awareness,
mm-hmm.
right? The awareness. How do you build it? So we use what you call above the line advertising. Previously, where it's TV, radio.
Okay.
That's why you hear an ad on high rotation every day. So that's to build the awareness, so that when you go to the store, we at least know.
I've heard about the brand. Now I can see the brand. Now I can associate.
Absolutely. So once a brand has generated some level of awareness, obviously it needs to spark some interest in the consumers. So the consumers must be now interested in actually trying out your product or buying it, right? Then after, it's conversion. So once conversion is when the consumer actually buys into your product, then you need to retain the customer. So the ultimate goal for any marketer is to retain their customers. Actually, there's a saying in marketing that it costs 5 times more to acquire a new customer than to keep an existing customer.
Yeah.
So customer retention is very important because it costs you less as a business, and you can upsell to the customer very easily.
Yeah.
Then ultimately it's brand loyalty. Then once they're loyal, they go and tell their friends about it. Then your brand is flourishing from that point.
Creating the stickiness.
Absolutely.
What are some of the things, though, that I need to sort of leverage to make sure that I create that stickiness, things like, from customer service, I suppose. What are some of those things that I need to make sure are in place to create that stickiness?
Yeah, I mean, look, the media plays a very big role in terms of just making sure that not only your customers are aware of your brand, but also at the same time, you stay top of mind.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you want your customers, when they are thirsty, to think of buying your brand versus your competitor brand. So media plays a very important role. There's various channels. I mean, television, radio, print, billboards, or out-of-home advertising.
Yeah.
And more recently, out-of-home is your billboards, digital screens, your street pole advertising, etc. Then more recently, of course, you've got digital marketing, right? So you've got all these digital platforms that not only you can just advertise from, but you can actually use it to sell to your
product as well.
So then that creates a channel for your consumers. So if you're an SMME and your product is not online, you're really doing it a service for the product, for your brand, because that's what consumers are spending a lot of the time. So you can build your awareness and actually sell right there and then. For example, radio, you can't see the product and want to buy it from radio. It's impossible, right? But from a digital perspective, that's where now whenever I speak to business owners to prioritize their digital marketing efforts, because that's where everything happens, and it happens instantaneously. And not only from a selling perspective or using it to sell, but also to build a community, because ultimately what you want is that you want to have a community of loyal customers that are engaged all the time, that will tell other people to actually purchase your brand. So we can do that easily through digital platforms than previously you'd have done.
What are the conversion rates of digital?
I mean, it depends on the type of product that you're selling, but I mean, look.
On average?
On average, I mean, it's hard to tell, because various businesses use various channels. Because remember, also with digital, it's an entire beast on its own, because you get email marketing, you've got social media marketing, you've got e-commerce, you've got SEO. So there's a lot of channels within digital marketing that one needs to be aware of, and to hire experts in the different fields. For example, email marketing, you do find like experts in email marketing that just focuses purely on doing email marketing, and that's what they do.
That's all they do, yeah.
So yeah, it varies. Some, the conversion rate is 1 to 10. It really depends on the channel that one uses.
I mean, I just want to pick on the email marketing tool that you just spoke to. And I think in my mind, I just thought, some of the personal information, puppy ads and things like that, and how is it important, especially if I'm a small business?
Yes.
And what are some of the things that I ought to think about, before actually saying buying, previously you'd buy like a database.
Of course.
Or any contact information, or why is it important that what should I guard against so that I don't get into trouble?
Yeah. I mean, that's why earlier on I talked about the importance of building a community.
Yeah.
Right? Because the community will give you permission to market to them.
Okay.
So you have to give your consumers or your customers a good enough reason that they should share their contact details with you so that you can be able to continue to be in touch with them, right?
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, if a consumer unsubscribes from a database, no love lost, you keep on, you just continue building. But I don't think that's what in the beginning you should be
concerned about, right?
Concerned about. Because at the end of the day, you should be pushing, you should be building the community, you should be giving consumers good enough reason for them to stay onto your database so that they can carry on hearing from you
and recommending you, I suppose.
Absolutely.
And that's why I want to get to word of mouth and how important is it to either get my staff members to be brand ambassadors, having my family or my friends becoming brand ambassadors.
Yeah.
What's the impact, right, of word of mouth?
I mean, word of mouth still remains the most powerful form of marketing ever. And I think more than anything, I mean, that's why if you look on a digital realm, the rise of influencer marketing, because that's what it sort of stands from, But obviously, we know that there are paid influencers. There are people that are genuinely, recommending products because they work.
They believe in it.
They believe in those particular products. So it's very important that you want a brand. I mean, you want to reach a point where you've got a certain level of brand loyalty and that consumers are advocating for your brand. And sometimes you can't buy word of mouth, right? Because you can go on and say, oh, my brand is the best in the market. But if consumers are having an opposite experience with your brand, they'll tell you that, no, it's actually not.
You can actually kill your brand by lying.
Absolutely. So my advice is that you can't brand your way through or PR your way through all your brand troubles. No, you have to also be producing good enough products and services that will give consumers the reason to tell others about
your brand. And I suppose to this point we've been talking about actual products.
Yeah.
But branding is far beyond that product. It could be like you as the ambassador or, the ambassador of the brand.
Yeah.
Big corporates. How wide a reach can how wide can this whole topic around branding spread? And why is it important that the entire value chain, right, is nurtured? Because, for example, if I'm a big clothing store, it's that clothing store that is a brand on its own, but also the product within the clothing store inform the strength of the brand that is the store, right? Can we just unpack how important that entire link is?
I mean, also we can even stretch it as far as personal branding.
Yeah.
The CEO, the founder, having to build a brand around themselves. Actually, there was a study that was conducted that CEOs with solid or good personal brands actually outperform those that do not at the stock markets, right? So branding is very important, even on a personal level. How you carry yourself as a CEO, the type of, I'd say, image that you carry when you're out there and you're engaging with your staff. Because ultimately, people buy from people more than anything. The reason why I use the current medical aid that I'm on right now, because I believe in the values that the CEO possesses and what he stands for, So that also goes a long way. So we cannot just look at the company in isolation. We need to look at the people that are also championing the work that the
brand
that the business produces.
I believe that's quite important, and I think it's not just an isolated event, right? You spoke about it's from the CEO right through to the customer, the ultimate customer, making sure that everyone who is involved in the process, your staff, your product, where you source the main ingredients, I suppose, of your product, or the raw materials of your product, right through to the end user, and just making sure that you take care of that entire value system. I think that's quite a key. Any parting shots? Any final, in 30 seconds, final remarks on the strength of the brand?
I mean,
or your business?
In this current times we find ourselves in, the strength of any business is no longer the assets, the buildings and the people that work in it. It's the brand. So a brand can be it is the number one asset for any business. So once you lose your brand and your reputation, no one will come by from ever again. So it's very important that you invest in it and you protect it.
Invest in your brand and protect it. There you have it. But before that, thank you so much, Pat. It's been lovely having this conversation with you, and I think you've taught us, and our viewers at home, I think, can attest to it, that there's a lot of awareness now that we all have around the importance of guarding our brand and making sure that we protect it, I suppose, with our lives. And so there you have it, branding and the importance of making sure that not only your business brand, but also your personal brand remains intact and that you actually protect its reputation. But yeah, it brings us to the end, unfortunately, of this episode. But please do not forget to continue engaging with us. Share your thoughts. How well are you protecting the branding of your business, if not your own personal brand? And share those thoughts with us on our social media platforms using the details as they appear on your screen right now. Please do not forget to tag us, #MM on SID. But from me, Joy Maniti, and the rest of the Money Matters team, it is goodbye and God bless.